However, Lorraine was interviewed by one of her grandchildren with a form laying out questions to ask, and that form has been kept. And so we know, for instance, that when she was a child, Lorraine's favorite food was a homemade pretzel. Her favorite drink was milk. She had to do the laundry as her chore as a child, and her nickname was Cookie. She played Monopoly, and she liked to go to the beach. There were a few other qualities that were important to Lorraine that were instilled in her youth. On the one hand, her Judaism was very important to her. She grew up attending Beth Joseph on South Shore, and one of the special items in her home that she remembered were the silver Shabbat candlesticks. As she grew older, regular attendance at synagogue would be very important to her. She also learned from her parents the importance of being a loyal and dedicated friend. And she met her best friend Carolyn when they were in grade school. And family was certainly important to Lorraine. We'll say more about her children and her husband in just a bit, but I think that it is important to note that her mother was one of 7 children. However, so many of the rest of her family did not come over to this country, and they were lost in the Holocaust. That hole was felt by her mother and by Lorraine throughout her life. Lorraine's family ran a liquor store, and while they were not wealthy, they were able to do things like go on vacation to Benton Harbor. When the children were in high school, on one such trip, Lorraine was at Sid's sandwich shop, where she met an older boy, and as it turned out, Norman's family ran that sandwich shop, and Norman and Lorraine started dating. She was 16 and he was 21 when they met, and after 4 years of dating, at Passover one year, Norman pulled her ring out and proposed to her. And they were married on September 8th, 1957, at the Morrison Hotel. Norman was in the Army at this point, stationed in Kansas, and so Lorraine followed him there. She had begun her studies at the University of Illinois, and while it may be true that officially she finished them in Kansas, were you to ask her, she would have told you that she went to the University of Illinois. Norman, however, was not a military man. And so, after, as he would say, he kept the Viet Cong out of Kansas, he returned to the South Side. And the two of them started their life as a married couple on the South Side, as he started his career as an attorney. As I said, Lorraine didn't come from a wealthy family, and neither did Norman. They had always lived in rental apartments up to this point in their lives, so to buy a home was a big deal for them. It was also important to Norman to provide a certain kind of life for Lorraine and for their children. Although in theory, Lorraine could have worked outside of the home, Norman didn't want her to. Mark, Art, and Molly were born, and Lorraine went to the work of being their mother and Norman's wife. And in 1969, they moved to Lincolnwood, where they lived until 2020. Norman was so devoted to her. He loved her so very much. While he was certainly dedicated to his law practice, leaving early in the morning and often staying late, he would make Lorraine breakfast before she was up, so that it would be waiting for her when she was up and ready. And Lorraine needed that breakfast because she filled her life with activity. Not necessarily the activity of putting the house together. There were pictures along the wall that had been there for years because maybe it would go right there, but hadn't quite yet made it. And we would not think of Lorraine as a helicopter parent, ever hovering over her children. She knew the importance of her children being involved in activities and made sure that they were occupied, but she also made sure that she was occupied with a range of volunteering. She was involved in Na'amat, pioneer women that helped women in America be involved in women's issues in Israel. She was involved in Hadassah. She also brought her volunteer work to civic matters locally, petitioning local government for the creation of a library and also a public swimming pool. In 1976, she was able to take her children with her for a summer to live in Tel Aviv, staying with family and really getting a genuine Israeli experience. In this way, she was able to live her own love of Israel and also to help her children build their love of Israel. Now, in that interview that I mentioned earlier, when she was asked what she was most proud of as a parent, she answered, college graduation. And when she was asked what accomplishment she was most proud of, she answered, my children. We all know that parent-child relationships have their bumps, and in this way, Lorraine was not different. And she loved her children deeply. In 1989, another important part of her life developed. They purchased a home in Michiana. Michiana was a dream come true for Lorraine, so much so that she spent as much time there as she could, leaving Norman in the city throughout the entire summer, which for Lorraine began in May, until the fall, well into September. Norman would come on the weekends, but Lorraine would stay throughout. And while there, she found Sinai Temple in Michigan City, and she developed a great love for that synagogue, going every Shabbat that she was in the area. It is said that the main reason to have children is so that one can have grandchildren, and Lorraine loved her grandchildren deeply. Abraham of blessed memory, Lily, Claire, Corey, Jake, and Danielle, and Mike. Now, it may be true that spending the entire summer in Michiana did not always make it convenient to see them, but when she was with them, she was so very happy. And now we're going to welcome Claire, Corey, and Jake up to say a few words about their bubby.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for being here to honor
the life of our Bubby. We know Lorraine Edelstein as Bubby, the Bubble, and Bubs. And Bubby has been an important person in our lives and all of us here today because we're lucky enough to know her. Each of us are going to say a few words about the impact Bubby has had on our lives and why her memory is truly a blessing. Do you want me to start? Okay.
As most of you know, Bubby would take us grandkids to Michiana for the whole summer. Okay. Many summers, Jake and I flip-flop between camp and Michiana, so Bubby would be fully booked in a town away from home with us. Because I spent so much time with Bubby over the summers growing up, she had such a great impact on me, and I was never resistant to spending my summers there because Bubby was so fun to be around and always made me laugh. In the mornings, I would join her doing morning yoga that mostly consisted of rolling on the floor, and then she would send me away on my bike to camp, maybe pick me up in the car if it was raining, and then we would go eat at our restaurant of our choice. Then we would either end the night with a movie, like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, or take turns reading Anne of Green Gables. There is so much of Bubby that I see passed down through our family. She really valued education and the written word, so she would take me on weekly, sometimes bi-weekly trips to the Michigan City Library so that we could peruse the stacks. I'm pretty sure that she started nightgown wearing in our family, Additionally, Bubby loved a deal. She taught me the art of the kids' meal, and to this day, I get a kids' meal every time I go to Culver's. Bubby also taught me how to get gussied up. When I was younger, she would show me how she would apply her blush and lipstick until it was eventually I was doing her hair and makeup every day. Bubby's always been a social butterfly and a community builder. In Michiana on Friday nights, Bubby and I would enjoy our delicious egg salad at the Sinai Temple's potluck. Despite being lightly populated, the temple always drew a crowd at potlucks. Bubby was like a celebrity amongst the other congregants who would come to share woes, to which Bubby would listen with unwavering attention. And at the Carrington, in her later life, she carried this energy with her, where I would often come to visit her and find her in the dining room chatting with her friends long after they were done eating. Bubby always wanted to talk, and I would come over and sit on her couch at the Carrington, and I was welcome to say anything in my life, and she would tell me stories about what was happening in her life. I'm going to miss these conversations with Bubby dearly, but I will continue to live by the lessons that she has taught me.
Bubby taught me the art of being unapologetically herself, and she was so loved for it. Everyone in town knew Lorraine Edelstein, and she had a remarkable capability of remembering and staying connected with everyone and letting you know exactly how much she knew. I think this was evidenced by the fact that her social life at Carrington, her assisted living facility toward the end, rivaled that of most college students. I had the opportunity to spend a lot of one-on-one time with my grandparents, Bubby and Zadie in Michiana growing up. And during that time, I was Bubby's shadow. We took our oatmeal with a lot of butter, which is something I still do today. We also did her floor exercises together before day camp, and every now and then, those weeks, my mom would discover me wearing 2 pairs of underwear, to which I would respond that one was my girdle. She was a big cheerleader of mine always and was one of my favorite people. She loved Alex and was very excited to see us get married. I'll forever wish she could have been there.
From 2007 to 2013, I spent more than half of my summers with Bubby and Michiana. This summer routine that Corey and Claire talked about became very comfortable for me. It gave me a home away from home and a place to try new things and make new friends and eat out a lot more than we would at home. Bubby taught me how to be good at being away from home. This was mostly before I had a cell phone, so we would write letters and make calls from the landline and looked forward to people coming up for the weekend. Now that I've been away from Chicago for 7 years, part of the reason I'm so happy with the life I have in California is because Bubby taught me that you can get away with a lot more when you're not at home. We would eat out every night, stay up late watching TV, and have dessert, sometimes with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. With Bubby, I became more independent and learned to enjoy being away. Michiana was the first place I remember sleeping in a room of my own. I felt that this prepared me to go away to overnight camp, and when other kids were homesick, I often thought about wanting to be in Michiana more than at home. More recently, I would often have extended phone calls with Bubby about things going on in our lives. And I would look forward to telling Bubby about a class, a trip, or my girlfriend, knowing Bubby would match my enthusiasm, ask if she were Jewish, and if she was related to so-and-so with the same last name. Bubby is a person whose memory will stay with me forever because I am constantly reminded of her words and mannerisms. My children will never know Bubby, but I hope they have the love and support that I had from my Bubby. Thank you, everyone, for being here today, and in her honor, please grab as many mints as you can on the way out. Thanks.
We now welcome Danielle and Mike.
Where do I begin with words of how much Bubby meant to us? Well, Bubby was a theater-loving, goofy, and fun grandmother who loved each grandkid in their own way. For me, Bubby gave me my love of gardening and making things pretty. And although she wasn't the best at gardening, she still had fun doing it. So when I came to visit in Michiana, every chance I got, with a trip to Oinks after, she would show me the best way that I still do today. But for Bubby's love of theater, she joined the theater goers group, the Saints, and had time to take us all along. And when she knew an usher was needed, one time when Corey and I were younger, she found Nutcracker on horseback and took us because she knew we liked horses and the Nutcracker. And even though we thought it was a very, very interesting choice, it was still fun because we were with Bubby and even were able to pet horses, which we loved. Mike and Bubby shared a love of theater that many times she asked Mike to go, and he happily was her escort. But one specific time, she took Mike to a play that was not appropriate to see with her grandson. And before she knew it, people were naked. And to this day, Mike remembers and continues to laugh. But through her eyes, Mike continues to see all the plays, growing his love of theater through high school and adult life. And I remember on the ride home, Bubby always singing songs, random songs like Put Your Finger in the Air, all the way to Oklahoma. But the best memory of all was when she would drop us off, and right as we would get out of the car, we would yell, "Hey, Bubby, all of you," to where she would reply, "All of you too." So, Bubby, in your honor, Mike and I put our fingers in the air and continue our love of your shared favorite things. And next time we see a play, we will say hello to all your friends and the Saints. And with all our hearts, we all love you forever and always. Thank you.
We now welcome Francie Hoffman, Lorraine's niece.
This is an excerpt from my Aunt Lorraine's Memories of Michiana. From Bubby with Love to Claire, Corey, and Jake. Our time in Michiana was so incredibly special for me. Spending our days playing, relaxing, and just being together are memories I cherish. I loved watching you all grow year to year, summer to summer. Michiana means so much to me, but I also know how much it means to all of you. You have brought endless joy to my life, and I love you all so much. I am incredibly proud of the young adults you have become. Zadie would be over the moon with all of your accomplishments. None of our parents were educated. To have such high-achieving grandchildren is a blessing. I hope our time in Michiana helped shape your life as it is today. I looked forward to summers with you throughout the entire year. It was the highlight of the year for me. The house in Michiana was purchased with my inheritance when my mom, Bubby Sarah, passed away. I was familiar with Michiana when I was younger. Zadie and I met in a town in Michigan next to St. Joe called Benton Harbor. There was a resort that was popular with Jewish families from Chicago. Zadie's family ran a sandwich shop. My family was on vacation. Aunt Maida and Uncle Jerry met there too. Michiana is bookended by two towns that did not allow Jews to purchase property back then, Long Beach and Grand Beach. When I had my children, we would go for short vacations to Sheridan Beach, where Zadie's secretary, Georgia, owned a home on Louisiana. We also rented cottages in Union Pier with friends of mine from Pioneer Women Neamot. It was in Union Pier that the Gilbert family visited and the blueberry Lorraine dessert was served. It had been kept in the Gilbert family all these years. We learned of it again when Jake went to Osrui with Carly Gilbert. I had always dreamed of having a beach house, but Zadie wasn't on board given his work schedule. We bought the house in 1989. I envisioned it as a family gathering place. Zadie and I enjoyed our weekends there. It was really the only time Zadie fully relaxed and slept a lot. We joined Sinai Temple and loved the congregation. When we became grandparents, I wanted it to be a special place for all of you. Your mom mentioned to me that Jake wasn't a fan of day camp in Glenview. I suggested taking Jake to Michiana for the summer. That is how it all began, and the rest, as they say, is history. A typical day in Michiana was day camp from 9 to 12, where you rode your bikes, home for lunch, time at the beach, and then out for dinner. Who remembers my morning yoga routine? Claire and Molly's dances in the front room. Zadie would ask Claire for some moves. Zadie's omelet and broiled lox. Playing Monopoly with Zadie, and he said passing out the properties was cheating. 4th of July bike parade. Michiana day camp, carnival, and talent shows. Our dinners out at Stray Dog, Texas Corral, Redemax, Casey's, Treehouse, Steak and Shake, and Oinks for dessert. Playground equipment with a bunch of tires attached. The beach. Listen Up Ladies giveaways. Making Zadie chocolate phosphates. Watching My Big Fat Greek Wedding and She's the Man on VHS tapes. Sunsets. The Green Hornet, Bubby's Tricycle, and Claire and the Sloth. I was thrilled when Corey was able to spend time with her Osrui friend Sammy Schneider in Michiana. I remember they went kayaking together. Claire, too, had a friend from Osrui in Michiana, Lily Katz. I'm sure more will come to me. Your mom will keep adding to this as I remember. It brings me joy that you continue to stay at the house in Michiana. There's a house in Michiana that has a sign in English and Hebrew that says, L'dor v'dor, from generation to generation. My hope is that the Michiana house stays a special place for you for years to come. From generation to generation, I pray that you will make Michiana an important part of your children's and grandchildren's lives. Continue the traditions we made together, and remember how much I love you and our time we spent there every summer.
Of course, we could not say all that there is to say about a person's life in this short time. We've not mentioned that Lorraine returned to school and became a nurse, and then nursed briefly at Evanston Hospital and then at the Self-Help Home. We've not talked about her love of bowling or tennis or rummy cube. We've only brushed against her love of international travel. And Danielle did mention the saints, but it's worth bringing up again how much she loved to volunteer as an usher and to bring her love of theater to others. When we are at that moment when we would like to bring Lorraine back into our lives, we would do well to act as she acted, sharing a love of family, a love of place, a love of theater with those whom we love. When we do that, Lorraine will be with us, and we will, as she did, contribute to making this world a better place. We take a few moments for silent prayers of remembrance. I'll invite you to please rise. מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המציא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, את נשמת לאה הדסה בת מלך ושבע, שהלכה לעולמה. ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים. ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Lorraine Edelstein, who has entered eternity. God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. We say together, Amen. You may be seated.
This concludes the service here in our chapel. The interment will take place immediately at the family's plots at Sunset Memorial Lawn Cemetery, 3100 Shermer Road in Northbrook. Following the interment today, the family will be sitting Shiva at the Hershenhouse residence, 2543 Pick Drive in Glenview. That information's on the inside of the funeral service form you should have received. If you did not receive one, they are available as you depart. I'll also ask that you please note, under the Shiva information in the program, the family has asked for contributions to be made to Keshet. That information is included as well. And for those of you watching online, all of this information is on the website that you are currently on. For those of you going with the family to the cemetery, the procession will form in our parking lot. Please make sure you have an orange funeral safety sticker that should be placed in the front passenger side of your windshield. We would also ask that you please keep your bright headlights and flashing hazard lights on at all times. For an additional measure of safety, our staff will be placing magnetic flags on the tops of the vehicles throughout the procession. As we drive in procession today, please drive as close as safety permits to the vehicle in front of you at all times. We want to avoid having any large spaces or large gaps in the procession, particularly as we go through the intersections. Serving as pallbearers today will be the grandchildren. Oh, gosh. Danielle, Mike, Lily, Corey, Alex, Jake, and Claire. I would ask everyone to please rise as the deceased and family and rabbi are escorted from the chapel, and I would ask the grandchildren to please step forward.